My name's Linda Code and I've lived here for nearly 20 years now. I live here with my family, my husband and 3 children. We have an orchard, but we've also got cabins and we rent those out on the weekends. This area has never been burnt out, so when we heard a fire was coming, we had heaps of preparation to do because the grass was so long and we've had so much junk, and so we took weeks, and we had weeks, thank goodness, to clear. It was a very emotional time because we felt that we didn't know if we were going to survive. Department of Sustainability and Environment had told us that we probably wouldn't save our house and we would probably lose everything. When the fires actually came, it was horrifying. We had the crew here, true, but the noise was just like a roaring jumbo jet engine and just came from up the river, and it just absolutely roared, and we just stood still in horror. We had a crew member standing next to us at the time, and he said to me, there's no way we can fight this is just too big. But they had a backburn just hours prior, and because of the backburn, once the wildfire hit the backburn, it just went up over the hills, and it was okay. But it was a horrifying experience. After the fires came through, all the bush area was all bare, so there wasn't anything to hold back the water. And as so often happens after a bushfire, we had massive flash floods. So we had very heavy rains coming over a very short period. Christine was crossing the river to get a boogie board out of the river. 3rd step, and she was gone. The water was this thick in ash. And when I saw the water and I did not see Christine, I honestly thought she'd drowned. And I was frantic. She clutched tussocks as she went down, and all the tussocks kept breaking, but the very last tussock held her, and she crawled out on the other side, and she'd managed to survive. I don't know how she survived, and we was just so lucky. I think positive things have come out of all things. Yes, the fires and the floods were horrendous, terrible, but we had our lives. We didn't lose anybody, we didn't lose our house. We found some fascinating things afterwards. The bush changed because the undergrowth was all gone, and all of a sudden we had a whole new world to explore. We found new pack tracks that we didn't know existed, and we found new adits, mine adits we didn't know were there, and we found grave sites which we didn't know were there. And so all of a sudden we could sort of try and imagine what life used to be like 100 years ago, and that was absolutely fascinating. We had wonderful community support. We had the Apex group come, and a group of them from Maui and Yarram came, and they gave us a whole weekend, and they chainsawed and sawed and cleared tracks and trees, and they brought up a wood splitter, and that they opened up the tracks for us, because up until then we couldn't get out because we had trees across the driveways and across the road. So having the manpower gave us such a boost. We've been through it once, so we know what's here and what we can do and what we can't do. And I think if it got really bad, I think we would go next time, we wouldn't stay. And nature is much more powerful than man. You can't fight a flood, and you can't fight a fire, but you just need to try and protect yourself as much as you can, and just put protection in around yourself and your family. And if you can't, well, best to get out. I've learnt that the family, or my family, is the best thing in the whole world. And as long as you've got your family, you've got everything you need.
I'm Roslyn Evans, and I live at Wicks Road, Cowra, and we've been here for about 20 years. Of the summer 2006, when we heard there was a fire coming, I was the only one home at the start, and I rang the others to come, and I just started doing what we talked about as a family. We operated a hose and fire pumps and just did what we could. I remember looking up and seeing it coming through the bush at us, and I remember the colours. They were so vivid. The emotions, I think they went from every level possible that day. The following morning, we had so many people come through the front gate. It was just so overwhelming. I just couldn't believe that so many people cared to come and see how we were. And they came in and offered all sorts of help. Learning to accept what's been offered was really hard because so much was offered and you're not used to it. But boy, were we grateful for it all, yeah. I think moving on for us was putting it back how it was, putting it back to what was our paradise instead of looking out at devastation. Yeah, rebuilding is a healing. With our fire plan, we have added another fire pump and a couple of 35-metre hoses to our collection, but we have decided that we'd stay ourselves. We'll just do our best again. It is a really big decision because you don't want to do anything silly, but at the same time, if we've got a good chance of still having our home and maybe losing the other things around, that's okay, if we've still got our home. Home is life. Home is everything. Yeah. I feel we have recovered. Yeah, I look at it, and most things in, well, you know, all things in life, there's a chapter in your life, and that was a chapter. And we've moved on. We're in a new chapter now. We're enjoying what we have around us. The trees and everything have grown back. We've got the bird life back. The bush has recovered. We have plenty of wildflowers. So we're in the next stage now of our journey.
My name's Gary Hammer. Bought the property back in '96, small 5 acres. My previous job, I was employed as a firefighter with the Department of Sustainability and the Environment. Thought I knew what to expect, but this was a fire that I've never seen before. Someone said there's a fire on our way, and I virtually laughed. I said, oh no, it's not. Within hours we were burnt out. But we were fairly organised. Wherever we put water, it didn't burn, but it burnt the whole perimeter around the house beyond the wet areas. So, as me being disabled, I was unable to leave the veranda, but whilst there was a spot fire here, my dad and son, I could tell them to tend to that, and while they were fixing that, I could be all around the house again and say, well, now you've got to come over here. And so I was the one, spotting troubles and directing them to that. If we weren't here, we would have lost the house for sure. And that's what you stay for. So I guess that shows how important the place is. If fire was approaching again, I'd be happy to stay. I've been doing some talks for the CFA, talking to a new group of people that we're going to go out and engage with the community and put on fire preparedness days and awareness raising days and talk about responsibilities and things like that. So my role has been to talk about that, my experiences of being through a fire, particularly as a person with a disability, how to best engage with those diverse communities that have got special needs. And I think in some of the most recent fires and emergency situations, whether it be floods or of the people who have been injured or lost their lives, a very high percentage of those people have been people with disabilities that really haven't really known what to do. They haven't been included, and so that lack of information. So how to better deliver that to those people. I guess a lot of things that I do, one, to show that people with disability got something to contribute. We don't just need help. And I guess standing up for all those people that don't have the capacity to do so for themselves. So if I can make a difference, it justifies why I sit in a wheelchair, because I'm able to make a difference. And I guess I got some experience and information that I can share, and hopefully others will benefit from.
I'm Kay Monroe, and we bought this property in 1976, and it didn't have a home on it. There was nothing here. 11 years ago now, we opened a guest house, and over the years we've developed the property, always expecting that a fire would come one day. Then 2007, it finally happened. We came under attack from a bushfire coming from the northwest. We were very well prepared, I'd say, very well prepared, and the house is very well prepared and well designed for fire. When the fire came, it came twice. First of all, it came down on from a spot fire, which was just over the river, and it went sweeping down towards Bruthen. And the next day, the CFA came and they were able to do a good burn, except the burn involved burning our river. But 4 days later, the main front came through and it came down onto the property, but we couldn't see it because of the smoke. We were standing on the front terrace and my husband had his arm around me and he said, well, this is it. We've expected it for 30 years and now it's happening. But the wind changed to a southeasterly, which is almost unheard of. So it happened within minutes. So the fire burnt back against itself. But anyway, a couple of days later they came out and all of this that wasn't burnt, they burnt. The garden became a refuge for lyrebirds and we opened all the gates so that the kangaroos and everything came in and ate whatever they could so that they could live, because everything else was burnt. Everything was black. Afterwards, DSE and Parks, they came and restored whatever had been destroyed through the things they had to do, because this became a conduit for them to travel through. So the big trucks and the big machinery had to come through this property and they fixed up everything. There was a really good government grant. The guy came out and had a look and said, obviously you need help, you know, for the pathways and for this and that. And then the government really, the Victorian government did a lot of work to promote businesses that had been affected. I thought the help was outstanding, because we didn't expect any. If you're stupid enough to come and live in a place like this and start a business where there's nothing, then you have to wear it. But we had over and above anything we could have ever hoped for from everybody. We're now, 5 years older and nearing 70, and if there's a red alert day now, we're leaving in the morning. It's more to do with us getting older and not as physically strong as we were, and realising that and thinking, well, we'll have to make adjustments. We wouldn't live here if we didn't have a lot of respect for nature. I was in awe of the fire and it was just, everything that happened was so awesome in the true sense of the word. And there were plants, these amazing plants that came up that we'd never ever seen before. They were about 3 metres tall and they took 2 years to bloom, and they have huge leaves and cover the bare soil. It's all part of the way things work. The grasses in the forest were astounding the next season. And even now, the wildflowers were just gorgeous after the fires. The bush itself, it's really, I feel privileged to have been here and to have seen that and to have experienced just what happens in the landscape. It's not destructive, it's a renewing process really, and I think we have to learn how to live with that, how to work, how to change our ways so that these fires, which are probably going to get worse around cities and things with climate change, I think we just have to work out how to see it in that way.
Hi, I'm Daryl Jordan. I live here in Buchan South. I've been here for 5 years. My partner's been here for 9 or 10, and gradually we built it up to what it is today. Yeah, well, the fire had been burning that way, which is west, for several weeks, and was getting closer and closer. And of course, it was getting hotter and hotter. But we had several weeks to prepare, so we had all the windows were all iron over them, and we'd taken all our good stuff into town. It got really close, is like 16 k's or so. That doesn't take long to burn, be pretty quick. And the first we sort of knew it was really serious was when the bulldozer rocked up and did a big scrape around the property here, bit of a fire break, and the smoke started, the light changed, then the adrenaline started pumping, and you go, ugh. And I guess you question yourself, well, can we do this or not, or will we? Do we really want to? Unfortunately, it didn't reach us. We had a southeasterly wind change, which blew it back on itself, so we were lucky. Yeah, well, of course, you always respect the fire. There's always stuff to burn that we're burning, and you pick your time to burn it. There's certain areas we will burn this year, in the next month or so, to get rid of the grass. Do that at night. Make sure you look after it. Plenty of people there, a bit of water around. But yeah, great respect for the fire because it's extremely dangerous, as we've seen. Yeah. Well, I guess at the time we were thinking, yeah, we'll probably fight this, but now our plan is just get out. Yeah, it's not worth it. People die, so we don't want that to happen. So yeah, our plan is basically get out. And then it depends on the fire too, because it can be a lightning strike over the back here or something. It could be on you in no time, you know. But if you live in the bush, yeah, you got to accept that that can happen. But then the beauty of living here offsets that fear. So yeah, well, the bushes is probably the most beautiful part living here, and the birds, the animals, the birds especially, they're my love. And yeah, I could sit here all day and watch them.
My name is Suzanne Davies. I've lived in Buchan for 23 years now. Back in 1998, I started working here at the Buchan Neighbourhood House as the coordinator for the community centre. When the 2003 fires were threatening our community majorly, and the 2006-7 fires, we were also here to support them in their time of need. It was a huge logistical role we took on. We did it because we're passionate about our community and wanted the safety of our community. The neighbourhood house was open for, 7 weeks at one stage, 24 hours a day, and in the next fires we were open for at least 4 weeks. We were working with the Red Cross registration team because what we were asked to do from the local police was to put a database together of everyone in the community. We had really, encouraged the community if they were evacuating to let us know, so that the CFA would know if they were going to be home or not. So we were changing that data all the time. The community was majorly affected by the bushfires. I mean, there was 1.2 million hectares burnt in 2003 and close to 1.1 in 2006-7. It was devastation, really, and the recovery was massive from that. It was a massive recovery, because a long-term recovery, actually. A lot of people were really quite affected by it, emotionally, mentally, and physically. We still have a rural councillor here today that works with people from that time and supports them in their healing process. The importance of the support with recovery, not only with the personal side of things, but then there's support in the recovery of their livelihoods. So there was a lot of support through local and state government, but also these community people coming forward from other areas to actually help the farming communities build their lives back up. Country people are they are resilient, and they are used to, sort of doing it hard. Very interesting, of course, though, and normally, as country people do, they all come together. The neighbours help other neighbours, in times of need. That was the other thing. Not only people came to help, the community helped the community. The community here helped each other rebuild their lives again. So, through all that and all that help, we're doing pretty well now. And especially when you can see, first time in a long time we've had rain here for just pre-Christmas, and it's so green, and we're hoping for a very rainy summer.